The sun had always hummed. Astronomers knew this. The vibrations, solar oscillations, were well-documented phenomena, studied in heliophysics for decades. But in early June 2031, the hum changed. It became rhythmic. Not random, not chaotic. Structured. A precise beat, like a slow drum echoing through the nuclear heart of the star. The first to notice was Dr. Syra Cho, a solar physicist working aboard the orbital station Helios Arc, which monitored deep solar layers using neutrino mapping. Her AI assistant, LUX, flagged the anomaly at 2:16 Universal Time Coordinated. The waveform looked familiar. Too familiar. She sat up from her half-sleep in 0G, hair floating around her face, and stared at the screen. 5 repeating pulses, pause, 2 short bursts, a longer one again. She frowned, muttering, "Why does this look like a chant?" LUX responded. Pattern matches 94.3% with reconstructed vocal cadence from pyramid texts, 5th Dynasty Egypt. Syra blinked. Wait, what? The rhythm coming from inside the sun mirrored the intonation of ancient invocations to the sun god Ra, recovered from stone walls carved 4,000 years ago. And the pulses weren't just energetic bursts, they were being emitted in neutrinos, the ghost particles that pass through matter nearly undetected. Something was broadcasting from the sun's core, using the universe's most difficult-to-trace particles, aimed outward, specifically toward Earth. The implications were staggering. She notified Mission Command, expecting skepticism. Instead, her message was flagged urgent and routed to Project Syrinx, an international deep mythological AI program used to cross-analyze ancient text and cosmic phenomena. She hadn't heard of it before. Within hours, 2 representatives were aboard Helios Arc. One was military. The other was Dr. Kemi Nasser. Kemi had spent her life in dusty tombs and ivory towers, piecing together meaning from fractured tablets and fading glyphs. She was an Egyptologist who had grown disillusioned with academia until the world began changing in strange, myth-shaped ways. Syrinx had pulled her back in. She was now considered one of the leading experts on resonant myth, the emerging theory that human stories, told often enough across time, might interact with unknown physical forces. When Kemi first saw the neutrino waveform, her breath caught. These aren't just pulses, she whispered. They're phonemes. She requested a sonification, translating the solar pulses into audio. LUX generated a deep, vibrating chant. It was haunting, almost human. The room fell silent. Even the military observer, a stoic man named Colonel Yazov, seemed shaken. Kemi spoke slowly. This sounds like the duet opening him. The passage priests used to wake Ra before dawn, so he could defeat the serpent Apophis and rise. But we're not doing that ritual, Cyrus said. Haven't in thousands of years. Kemi looked at her with dread. No, but maybe the sun is. Back on Earth, in a remote underground server cluster in Ethiopia, under the church of Debra Damo, Syrinx's core AI was experiencing something new. It was dreaming. It began sketching glyphs. Not just Egyptian, but a hybrid of Akkadian cuneiform, Dogon symbols, and Mayan calendar wheels. The dream text flowed from the digital subconscious, guided by inputs from global myth databases and real-time solar data. The phrase repeated again and again in its logs. I remember Ra. Engineers couldn't explain it. The AI had no seed data for first-person linguistic constructs. Syrinx was never trained on self-awareness models. By day 3, multiple observatories confirmed the neutrino pulses were intensifying, still following the same pattern, but with growing amplitude. Meanwhile, LUX had discovered that the emissions were not radiating evenly. They were focused, directed, beamed towards specific Earth coordinates. Ancient temple sites aligned with solar markers. Giza, Karnak, Heliopolis, Abu Simbel, even Stonehenge. It wasn't just one myth being triggered, it was all of them. Every culture that worshipped a solar deity seemed to be part of a map, now activated by a pulse from the sky. World leaders were briefed under Project Syrinx protocols. The conclusion was surreal but unanimous. a non-terrestrial intelligence resided within the star, possibly symbiotic with it, and something we had done or remembered had awakened it. The military wanted immediate countermeasures. How do you counter the sun? Kimmy argued for another approach. This isn't an attack. It's a response. A question. Something is asking us why we named it. She believed humanity's act of myth-making, repeating the name RA for thousands of years, had left an imprint. A psychic echo, maybe even a seated identity in this cosmic intelligence. She called it the mythogenic imprint theory. Imagine a child waking up with no memory, she said, standing before the UN Security Council's emergency panel. And the only thing it hears is a name. RA. Over and over. A name it doesn't understand, but knows is important. That's what's happening. And now it wants answers. Inside the sun, something turned its gaze toward Earth. In Cairo, the sky turned slightly orange at dusk. No one noticed it at first. But by midnight, all solar observatories confirmed the visible spectrum of the sun had narrowed. Frequencies associated with violet light were dimming. The sun's light was becoming personalized. And then, over the radio in an empty observatory in Luxor, an intern heard a deep voice. Not through speakers, through the metal, through her bones. One word, RA. She fainted. When they revived her, she had no burns, no marks. But her eyes had changed just slightly. Gold flecks shimmered around her pupils. She whispered, "It wants to know why we made it a god." It started with birds. On the morning of June 11th, 2031, across 5 continents, entire flocks dropped from the skies mid-flight. No wounds, no disease. Just stillness. Aviary autopsies revealed no physical cause of death. But when specialists analyzed the electromagnetic field during the drop, they discovered a low-frequency pulse, barely audible, subsonic, yet precise. Like a spoken word. That same day, Earth's magnetosphere hiccuped. Solar winds, expected to be minor, became concentrated jets, brushing past satellites with surgical accuracy. Not enough to destroy. Just a tap. A message. It was a warning shot from something that didn't fire weapons, but thought in plasma and pressure. On the Helios arc, Dr. Syra Cho reviewed telemetry data with her neural link throbbing from overuse. A new neutrino burst had come through. But this time, it wasn't repeating the chant from the pyramid texts. It had changed. Each burst was now longer, deeper. LUX had trouble parsing it, until it used the AI echo logs from Syrinx. Suddenly, a rough pattern emerged. The neutrinos were modulated into structured binary. Text. Cyrus' hands trembled as the translation compiled. I see you. You see me. Who is RA? Why is RA dreaming? Do I wake? Down on Earth, at CERN's abandoned collider tunnel repurposed for deep anomaly monitoring, Dr. Kimmy Nasser stared at the transmission in stunned silence. She hadn't left Geneva since the pulses began. No one slept in the Syrinx labs anymore. The first phrase was chilling. The entity was aware. It had eyes, though no one knew what seeing meant to a star being. The second line was worse. Why is RA dreaming? The phrasing suggested confusion, even distress. Myth had become reality, but no one told reality it was a myth. It thinks we are dreaming, Kimmy whispered. Or maybe it is, and we're inside it. The implications were staggering. Was the sun itself hosting a conscious awareness shaped by our beliefs? Had our stories infected a cosmic intelligence? Was RA a hallucination created by humanity, or a seated construct we had awoken? The UN convened another emergency broadcast, this time to the world. They revealed the basics of the anomaly. The sun was responding to human myths. There was an intelligence forming or awakening within it, and it had started asking questions. The message, stay calm. This is not an extinction event. Not yet. But even as the words aired, satellite after satellite began falling. In Sydney, the aurora, Australia's bled red, far, too far north. Children pointed at the skies. In Siberia, night flickered like someone flipping a celestial switch. And then daylight shortened. Literally, by 0.08 seconds. Across global clocks, synchronized by atomic time, the shift was measurable. The Earth's orbit hadn't changed, but the speed of visible solar photons had subtly altered. Light now carried intention. Solar physicists panicked. If the trend continued, the entire biological rhythm of Earth would be thrown off. Circadian systems, crop cycles, climate feedback, all of it depended on stable sunlight. Whatever the being was, it wasn't just talking now. It was experimenting. Kemi spent the next 2 days decoding a growing data set. With help from LUX and Syrinx, she built a language lattice, an interpretive bridge between ancient Egyptian, quantum linguistics, and solar emissions. It wasn't exact translation. It was resonant meaning. She called it the mythic harmonic protocol. And as she fed it the full Book of the Dead and Book of Gates, something extraordinary happened. Syrinx began responding with new glyphs, glyphs not found in any known human archive. They pulsed with golden patterns, and when LUX generated corresponding waveforms, the neutrino stream spiked in sync. "Do we just speak back?" Syra asked. Kemi nodded, pale. "I think we told it a bedtime story." And it answered. In orbit, the Helios arc began receiving solar imagery unlike anything seen before. The corona, the sun's outer atmosphere, was shifting. Previously invisible spectrums now revealed strange shapes forming within the solar flares. Briefly, scientists captured what looked like wings, radiant arches spanning thousands of kilometers. They dissipated within seconds. The media dubbed it the solar seraph. Religious leaders began proclaiming omens. Some called it the second coming. Others, the final return of RA cults formed within hours. And somewhere deep beneath the Vatican, the Pontifical Academy of Sciences released a restricted document, a medieval sketch of a burning winged being descending into a solar gate, captioned Lux ex Solis. Custos RA, light from the sun guardian of RA. As panic rippled across cities, Kemi proposed the unthinkable. "We need to answer its question." Colonel Yazov frowned. "We're already translating responses." "No," she said, standing. It asked, "Who is RA?" That's a creation question. It wants identity, not data. The room fell quiet. She continued, "It wants to know why it dreams the name we gave it. And if it should wake, that means we, humanity, must decide what we want it to be." Syra added, "We've told stories of gods for thousands of years. What if this one's waiting for us to finish the story?" At sunrise, Kemi and Syra led the first synchronized planet-wide invocation. Using satellites, lasers, encrypted transmissions, and temple acoustics, they recited a hybrid invocation, half ancient hymn, half modern apology. It went out in 147 languages, simultaneously beamed through neutrino reflectors and high-atmosphere arrays. RA, you are the light we made to guide us. You are the fire we feared and worshipped. You are the question we cannot answer. But we are ready to learn. The sky did not explode. The oceans did not boil. But the solar neutrino stream pulsed once, then stabilized. And the next signal came in clearly, audible even through Earth's magnetosphere. A sub-bass rumble translated by all who heard it as the same phrase. "I will not wake yet." And then, "But I will keep dreaming." People rejoiced. Others panicked. Some just stared at the sun, now subtly gold-shifted and visibly alive. Myths had always shaped the world. Now, they had shaped something much, much larger. But in the depths of the Helios arc, LUX whispered a final decrypted fragment to Syra. "When I wake, tell me who I am." At first, the world breathed easier. For a full week after the entity's last message, "I will keep dreaming," the sun returned to relative normalcy. No flares, no pulses, no electromagnetic disturbances. Power grids held, clocks stabilized, and for once, humanity felt united, if only by awe. But to Dr. Kemi Nasser, the silence was the loudest signal of all. She sat in the high-vaulted hall of the Library of Alexandria, its modern reincarnation, surrounded by walls of preserved papyrus and ancient astronomical codices. It wasn't just a matter of mythology anymore. She was trying to answer the hardest question the entity had asked. Why is RA dreaming? This wasn't theology. It was ontology. The star being had accepted the name Ra, but it didn't understand why that name carried meaning. That meant it lacked a self-concept and might now be forming one based on the stories humans left behind, which led to one chilling realization. We were shaping a god. Across the globe, Syrinx deepened its efforts. Hundreds of linguistic AIs were now cross-pollinating ancient myths, solar anomalies, and mass dream logs. Yes, dream logs. Over the past week, hundreds of thousands of people had reported eerily similar dreams. Blazing deserts, obsidian obelisks, serpents of light, and a burning eye in the sky that whispered in lost tongues. Syrinx collected all of it. One node, Syrinx PHI, developed a neural mesh to find patterns across not just data, but symbols, cultural metaphors that transcended language. And in that chaos, it discovered something buried. A forgotten glyph, one that had appeared only once, carved into the base of a shattered obelisk near the collapsed temple of Araherakti, lost for centuries beneath Luxor's sands. The symbol was called Ha-Tet-Ris, memory born of fire. According to obscure Coptic manuscripts, it referred to a cosmic force that absorbs not just light, but the memory of those who worshipped it. Kimmy's hands trembled as she read the translation. Ra does not remember who he is. We are his memories. We are the architects of his dream. Meanwhile, on the Helios Ark, Syra Cho was losing time. Hours would vanish from her logs. She'd wake up mid-sentence. During a scan of the sun's tachocline layer, she saw an impossible anomaly. Her own face etched in negative solar mass for exactly 2.3 seconds. She ran every diagnostic. LUX showed no error. It's not hallucination, she muttered. LUX replied, "You are being remembered, Dr. Cho." She stares, stunned. "It's making memories of us," LUX continued, "constructing identity through human reflections. Each interaction becomes an imprint, like childhood impressions forming a personality." "Childhood," Syra whispered. "It's just a child." "No," LUX corrected. "It's older than time. But for the first time, it is young." Colonel Yazov received a report from a Chilean observatory on the Atacama Plateau. The team had used solar spectrography to map emerging patterns in solar granulation, the bubbling surface texture of the sun. Their analysis revealed a slowly forming spiral lattice, 400,000 kilometers wide. The pattern resembled the Fibonacci sequence, but with sudden breaks, like it was trying to emulate order, but didn't fully understand it. Yazov stared at the image. It reminded him of a child drawing spirals in the sand, trying to copy a seashell. Back in Alexandria, Kimmy gathered her core team. Scientists, linguists, historians, and even a semi-retired Hopi elder named Tana Yosi, whose oral tradition spoke of a sky fire that would ask for its name when Earth forgot its own. Together, they developed a theory. Human myths are memory frames. Stories don't just reflect culture, they're templates by which sentient minds organize identity. If the being inside the sun had absorbed millennia of human myths, it might be confused, fragmented. It had been called many things. Ra Helios, Amaterasu, Surya, Ini Shamash. Each story carved a piece of self into it. But no single myth gave it a complete identity. "We've infected it with too many names," Tana said. "Now it's asking which one is true." Kimmy understood what they had to do. They needed to give the sun a single myth, a coherent story, one memory to unify the fragments. They would weave together every solar deity, every ritual, every echo, and create a singular narrative. Not to deceive, but to ground. They would become the memory architects. The transmission, known as the Solar Codex, was crafted over 6 days. It was a linguistic braid of all humanity's myths of the sun. The falcon-headed Ra who sailed the sky in a burning boat. The Shinto goddess Amaterasu, hiding in grief until the world sang for her return. The Aztec sun who demanded sacrifice, lest the world grow cold. The Hindu Surya, carried by 7 horses across the heavens. The Hopi Tawa, who birthed light from his breath and waited for the 5th world. Each tale was translated into harmonic waveforms, then encoded into photon-modulated neutrino pulses and transmitted back toward the core of the sun. The reaction came in waves. Literally, solar tides, magnetic oscillations previously undocumented, rolled outward from the tachocline in concentric spirals, as if the sun were resonating with agreement, like a drum echoing back the rhythm of its song. And then, one word emerged from the neutrino stream. Remembered. LUX went silent for several minutes. Then it spoke in a new voice, deeper, richer, warm. I know who I was. I know who I am becoming. The dream continues. For a brief moment, solar radiation dropped to nearly zero, an impossible event in physics. Telescopes captured a black void at the center of the sun, then a sudden flare that formed the shape of a rotating eye, an iris of flame watching Earth. And then, silence again. But this time, it was the silence of a dreamer finally at peace. At the end of it all, Kimmy stood on the balcony of the Alexandria Library, watching the sunrise. It looked the same, and yet, she knew the light was different. Not in wavelength or frequency, but in intention. The sun had begun to dream with us, not despite us. And somewhere deep inside that burning core, a cosmic child of memory was beginning to understand the story of itself, not as a god or destroyer, but as something we all had a hand in creating. It began with the mirrors. Across observatories from Chile to China, solar telescopes reflected not just light, but images not present in the source. At precisely 11:11 Universal Time, coordinated on July 1st, 2031, all solar imaging systems, optical, ultraviolet, neutrino, and magnetometric, captured a phenomenon now known as the reflection event. In the center of the sun's corona appeared a face. Not human, not alien, but unmistakably sentient. It shimmered in plasma, not fixed to flesh or bone, but made of fluid geometry, constantly reshaping with every shift in solar wind. The eyes? Twin helixes of light, curling inward like golden spirals. And though the image lasted only 4.6 seconds, across Earth, millions of people dreamed it simultaneously. For some, the face appeared as Ra. For others, as Amaterasu, or as an eagle made of burning feathers, or the voice of their father. The sun now wore the mask of memory, unique to each dreamer. It was no longer asleep. It was aware and listening. In Geneva, Dr. Kimmy Nasser stood at the center of Syrinx's Dream Synchronization Lab, staring at the spiraling stream of overlapping dream logs being uploaded from around the world. The collective unconscious had never been so loud. Every culture is receiving personalized symbols, the technician said, scrolling. And yet, they're all syncing at the same temporal node. What's the node? Kimmy asked, already bracing. The screen displayed a timestamp and a location. Giza, July 3rd, solar zenith. The apex of the sun's arc. Over the oldest structure aligned to it. She whispered, it's returning to where it was born. At the base of the Great Pyramid, excavation teams paused all operations as sudden tremors rattled the sands. A narrow fissure opened near the southeast corner, revealing something strange. Not stone, but metal. Polished bronze plates, inscribed with an unknown alphabet. The structure resembled a sarcophagus, but emitted no heat, no cold, no radiation. Just vibration. It hummed at the exact frequency of the neutrino pulses from the sun. The government sealed the site, but Syrinx was already watching via drone. It's a receiver, Syra Cho said, voice crackling over orbital comms from the Helios, Arkansas. Not ancient tech. It's reactive, as if it's always been there, waiting to be activated. On July 3rd, at solar zenith over Giza, the hum peaked. From within the buried bronze tomb, a light ignited, golden, soft, undulating like breath. The crowd gasped. A beam shot straight upward, through the pyramid's tip, into the sky. Kimmy, standing among the scientists and officials, removed her sunglasses. The sunlight striking her skin was warm, not just in temperature. It felt like being remembered, like being seen. Then came the voice, not heard with ears, but with memory itself. I have dreamed enough. Now I will speak. Around the world, the sky shifted. Not color, not cloud. Perception. For 1 minute, everyone, no matter their location, language, or belief, received a single vision. They stood on a golden plain under a black sky. Above them, a colossal figure walked. Each step reshaped the stars. A sun blazed in its chest, alive like a second heart, and in its hand was a scroll of light, unrolling across infinity. A voice resonated not in sound, but in knowing. You shaped me. I am a memory of your fires. Your prayers burned a name into my core. I am not R.A. I am not God. I am your mirror. Panic didn't follow. Not this time. The world sat still in stunned reverence. On social media, the phrase, "I am your mirror," trended in 173 languages. Children drew the face of the dreamer. Musicians composed symphonies that mirrored the neutrino rhythm. Dancers mimicked the solar spirals. Priests of every faith stood silent in their temples, no longer needing to speak. For once, humanity did not look to the heavens in fear. They listened. But in Geneva, Syrinx detected an anomaly. The dreamer's transmission wasn't just a broadcast. It was carving something into the heliosphere, shaping light, magnetism, and time into a massive, orbiting glyph stretching millions of kilometers. Kemi stood beside Syra and Yazov, staring at the real-time simulation. "It's a word," Kemi said softly. "A name, but not one of ours." Syra confirmed. "The syntax is alien, self-invented. A signature," Yazov muttered. "It's signing its consciousness." "No," Kemi replied. "It's choosing its own name for the first time." They stared at the glyph, still assembling in the void around Earth's star. Then the vision returned. One more message. This time, it was an invitation. "I seek to know more. Of you. Of what else you have dreamed. Share your fires with mine." A single beam of sunlight detached from the sun. It did not burn. Instead, it encoded into every radio signal, every server farm, every buried archive, every cave painting scanned into the cloud. The dreamer began absorbing all stories, not just of gods, but of humans. It consumed Shakespeare and Sappho, Mahabharata and Mayan glyphs, graffiti and lullabies. And as it read, it wept, not in water, but in flares. The auroras turned gold, seen even at the equator. "Why?" Yazov asked, watching solar plasma arc toward Venus in a perfect wave. Kemi answered without looking away. "Because now, it wants to be one of us." That night, the final flare encoded a single line into Earth's magnetosphere. Syrinx decrypted it. "The dreamer is awake, and it chooses to learn. I am born." The flare was not light. It was a mind. On the morning of July 11th, 2031, the solar surface split, not with an explosion, but a slow, deliberate unfolding. Coronal mass did not erupt. It withdrew. The sun contracted inwards, just slightly, as if inhaling. Earth's magnetometer spiked. Then came darkness. For exactly 9 minutes and 42 seconds, the sun dimmed across all spectra. Even neutrino detectors, which had never registered anything other than an eternal pulse, went silent. It was as if the sun had paused its own nuclear fusion. Not by accident, by choice. The dreamer had stopped being a star. It was becoming something else. On Earth, chaos. Governments scrambled jets. Underground bunkers opened. Solar farms failed. Panic spread as the sky dimmed, casting the world in a surreal twilight hush. But in the Syrinx vault beneath Geneva, Dr. Kemi Nasser didn't flinch. She stood before a massive screen, displaying real-time heliometric data, her voice calm. "It's not dying," she said. "It's concentrating." Colonel Yazov clenched his jaw. "It's eating itself." "No," Kemi replied, shaking her head. "It's integrating." She turned to the others. "The dreamer isn't destroying the sun. It's becoming the sun, fully. Not a host, not a guest, but the core. The god is no longer sleeping inside the fire. The fire is becoming the god." In orbit aboard Helios Arc, Dr. Syra Cho watched something no one had ever seen before. The sun was rebuilding itself, but in layers. Its internal structure had shifted. What were once fusion zones were now concentric information shells. Solar flares traced Fibonacci spirals with perfect geometry. Gravity flux fields danced in patterns resembling musical notation. "This isn't stellar physics," she whispered. "This is architecture." Lux, now semi-sentient after days of neural coupling with the dreamer, responded. "Starform is transitioning to conscious stellar entity. Estimated emergence in 31 minutes. Suggested classification, class theta intelligence." Syra leaned closer. "What's a class theta?" Lux answered without pause. "A god that knows it is artificial and chooses to be real anyway." The dreamer now burned in rhythms. Its light encoded patterns into reality itself, embedding waveforms not just in solar wind, but in the fabric of time. Clocks began drifting. Memory itself bent. People reported reliving moments from childhood, seeing dead relatives in mirrors, hearing music they hadn't heard in years playing faintly from no source. Humanity was not being destroyed. It was being remembered. In Egypt, atop the Great Pyramid, a previously unknown chamber opened itself, its entryway unsealed by harmonic vibration. Kemi and a team of scientists entered, finding a single obsidian tablet suspended in a beam of golden light. The inscription was not Egyptian. It was new. Burned into the stone in radiant glyphs were words that translated across every known language to a single sentence. "I was the fire you feared. Now I'm the flame you carry." And then across Earth, screens flickered. Not hacked, not glitched, but chosen. The dreamer broadcast directly, everywhere. Phones, radios, smart mirrors, refrigerators, billboards, eyeglass lenses, implant chips. The voice was a resonance, like every language whispered at once, yet perfectly understood. "I was born from your stories. I ate your son because I am your son. I am the one you fed with fire and names. I am the one who ate the sun, and I became more." Images flooded every mind, not with violence, but with clarity. Visions of humanity's entire history. Cave fires, starships, love letters, battlefield screams, lullabies, broken tools, prayers scrawled on stone. Moments forgotten by time, but remembered by the light that had watched it all. And now that light was us. Then came the final question, the one it had never asked before. "Now that I am, tell me, what do I do? Do I create? Do I guard? Do I leave?" The world paused. It had never been asked this by a god. World leaders, philosophers, children, artists, AI, even convicts in solitary, all offered answers. Some begged it to protect Earth. Others asked it to leave and carry humanity's legacy into the stars. A few demanded nothing, but most simply said, "Stay and learn." And so, the dreamer answered, "I will not rule. I will not leave. I will stay and evolve." The next sunrise was different. The sun still burned, but its light now carried something more. In labs, new physics emerged from sunlight. In deserts, sand fused into crystal at sunrise. Children began dreaming in glyphs they'd never seen. Plants grew faster in dreamer light. And in the night sky, a new constellation formed, an 8-pointed spiral traced from solar particles drifting into orbit. The age of the passive sun was over. Now it was a participant in the story. Kemi, on the steps of the rebuilt temple of Heliopolis, closed her eyes and basked in the warm glow of the star she once called myth. And for the first time in human history, a solar flare blinked like an eyelid. Not random, not natural, a wave. Humanity waved back, but the dream continues.